Hello everyone, hope you guys are safe at home. This is the first video in our co-guide series, Secrets of Programming Beyond Definitions. So today's topic is nothing but so-called program. After checking multiple queries received, we decided to start our series about the programming from scratch. In this video, we are not going to explain any standard definitions. We will be explaining behavior of program on hardware platform. First, let's discuss what is a program and how it runs on any hardware. You know many advanced languages like Python, Perl, PHP, Java, HTML, MATLAB, etc. You may have heard some of these names here and there. Using all these languages, we write programs to develop applications. First thing first, we know a program is a set of instructions to perform particular task. So what is a task here? Task is nothing but some work. So we generally write some lines of code to perform some desired task. After this, we have learned syntax, tokens, and started writing small programs. Hold on, come back to instruction. What is an instruction and how it helps us to perform a task? Some people may answer this like instruction is a single line of code to perform small operations and it has operators, operands, etc. But how will it perform that operation on hardware? Here hardware may be a processor, FPGA or high-end SoC. Before discussing all these, let's go to our basics. I'll explain few real-time examples of systems. Okay, even if we consider a basic microprocessor such as 8086, it will be very difficult to understand the hardware architectures and terminology. But here our aim is to explain relation between hardware and software. So let's consider our own examples. Okay, this is our first example. Let's assume you have a circuit with one source and one lamp connected in series loop with a switch. So the operation is switching the light on and off. We are performing that operation using the switch operator. Simple, but very important thing that we have to consider here is even though the lamp is connected to a battery with fixed wiring, the current flow will again be depending on the switch. So in the first example, we have seen one switch and it's working. Now we have to operate three different lamps. Here also we can use manual switches. We can turn on or off each and every light individually using its switch. You can observe one thing. Even though all three lamps are connected to battery, we can turn on or off the selected lamp because switch is the control operator here. Now let's see one last example. Consider one real-time water pump set with automation. Here we have a motor, power supply and a switch. But we have to turn on or off the motor depending on water level in water tank. In this example, we have to stress on one more thing, that is switch on or off the motor depending on some external condition, that is the water level in the tank. Like this, we can consider so many simple real-time examples which will have a source, sink and control operators. This theory is not only applicable to those examples, but in all real-time applications, initially we will have some energy in one form and we have to process or control it in order to get the required form of energy. In programming, we can reform the above statement as in general we will have some data. We have to process it in order to get the desired response. In the same manner, we have some data as input and get the output depending on the control logic or processing. All the above examples stating the same logic. Even though connections are fixed, we can change their functionality. Now again, let's go back for a while and focus on execution. Later we can discuss the parts of program. How the instruction is executing on hardware. To understand this, we should have some basic knowledge of digital hardware. Here I am assuming people who are having basic level knowledge. I'll explain only functionality of few digital elements. If you need working principles and design of these elements, I'll post another video for all digital elements. Watch that video for clear understanding of digital electronics. First, we'll discuss about 4 basic digital components. One is digital switch, second one is flip-flop, third is subtractor, and last one is adder. As we are saying digital, these components deals with only binary numbers. You know, right? Binary 1 and binary 0. Okay, let's talk about adder. Half adder. It's a digital component which adds 2 bits. It has 2 inputs, A and B, and 2 outputs. They are sum and carry bits. Now let's discuss about subtractor. What is a subtractor? It is a digital component which finds the difference between 2 bits. It has 2 inputs, A and B, and 2 outputs. One is difference and carry bit. We have many switch models in digital technology like BJT switch, MOSFET switch, CMOS switch, etc. Here I am explaining the basic MOSFET switch for ease of understanding. It's very easy to understand the switching action of MOSFET. When the gate is low or grounded or set to logic 0, then MOSFET acts as open switch. That means the 2 wires that are connected to a switch are open. That MOSFET switch will act as closed switch if the gate voltage is logic high. That means when it is set to 1. Okay, now let's discuss about latch or flip-flop. Latch is a memory element which stores the single logic bit for 1 clock cycle. We have different types of flip-flops and latches. I will explain all those in another video, but now I am considering simple D flip-flop. Here you just remember a latch or flip-flop as a memory element to store our required data temporarily. Enough. These 4 digital electronic components are sufficient to understand our upcoming software and hardware integration concept. Consider first 2 components, adder and subtractor. Both have 2 inputs, A and B, and 2 outputs. One is sum or difference and the other is carry or borrow. Now we'll try to implement the both components in one place and call it as arithmetic unit. Assume we need only one operation at any instance of time, then we require only 2 inputs and 2 outputs for arithmetic unit. As inputs and output pins are common for adder and subtractor, we can reduce the input and output count from 4 to 2. Here, we have to be more careful to understand the things as they are. Sending same inputs to different blocks may not be a problem because same A and B data is passing to both modules. But the main problem is as both modules are connected in circuit and input is provided to both circuits, adder would place the sum on pin out 1 and subtractor would also place the difference on the same out pin 1. In the same way, adder will put a carry value on out pin 2 and subtractor will put a borrow value on same out pin 2. This criteria creates more confusion on determination of actual output at that instance of time. So, one thing is clear, even though we are not using both modules at the same time, we can't use same output pins for both adder and subtractor. To resolve this issue, we can use our third digital component called switch. If we feed binary 1 at S12, switches S1 and S2 will be closed, then adder output will be present at output lines 1 and 2. If we feed binary 1 at S34, switches S3 and S4 will be closed, then a subtractor output will be present at output lines 1 and 2. Here, one should take care of switching times. The basic condition here is S12 and S34 should not be turned on at the same instance. Now it's time to think how to feed S12 and S34 lines with binary 1 or binary 0 as per our requirement. We can add our fourth digital component here to feed stable data at S12 and S34. Yes, we have already discussed flip-flops or latches would store one bit for required amount of time depending on control signals. I don't want to confuse you by discussing about all these controls here, but we can discuss that in upcoming videos. So the solution is loading required bits into flip-flops F12 and F34 depending on requirement and time instances. I think we have discussed too much about electronics concepts. Let's move towards programming. But the aim of this video is to explain the execution of software on hardware. For this, let's consider our previous arithmetic unit example with adder and subtractor. Now only consider important components of that example. Here we have two inputs, two outputs, two flip-flops and two arithmetic units. Now we can define the control logic of above circuit in simple form as if we need addition of bit 1 and bit 2, then place bit 1 on pin A, place bit 2 on pin B, place binary 1 on F12, place binary 0 on F34. Then resulted sum will be shown on pin out 1, resulted carry will be shown on pin out 2. If we need subtraction of bit 1 and bit 2, then place bit 1 on pin A, place bit 2 on pin B, place binary 0 on F12, place binary 1 on F34. Then the resulted difference will be shown on pin out 1 and resulted borrow will be shown on pin out 2. For further simplification, we can rearrange and separate all components into 4 groups, like all memory elements into one group and call them as memory, all input and output pins together as a group and name them as IOs, all switches and control pins into one group and call them as controls, and all arithmetic units we can call them as arithmetic unit. Further reorganize the 4 components as 2 parts. One is memory and fixed hardware. Pause here for a while and try to observe few things. Memory block has memory cells and IO buffers to hold the data. Here data means both operands and control data, whereas the remaining fixed hardware part remains constant irrespective of operation. Now we can conclude this part with one major observation, that is, even though the hardware is kept fixed, we can perform our required operation by changing the control and data provided to that hardware. Like for addition of bit 1 equal to 1 and bit 2 equal to 1, for our example hardware, the inputs are like for control 1 F12 take as 1 input and control F34 take input as 0. For input A, it is 1. For input B, it is again 1. Now consider 1011. This is the binary code or instruction for our example hardware to perform addition of 1, 1. This is nothing but our so-called instruction. Even though our example is simple one, still this binary instruction is difficult to understand. Real-time processors have very complex instructions with length like 32 bits, 48 bits and 64 bits. In a sense, one instruction length is 64 bits. Understanding, remembering and writing codes with these many bits are very difficult. So, people discovered easy way to represent these binary codes and developed assembly level language. Don't worry about these terminologies. Assembly level language will have symbols to particular binary codes which can be easily understood. To understand assembly level language, let's assume some codes for our own example hardware. In our case, control F12 and control F34 are having 1, 0 as input for addition. Control F12 and control F34 has 0, 1 for subtraction. Now we can consider two fixed symbols, add and sub, in such a way that add equal to 1, 0 and sub is 0, 1. We can write 1, 0, 1, 1 as add 1, 1 and 0 1 1 1 as sub 1 1. This add and sub are called as mnemonics or symbols in assembly level language. An assembler will decode this add and sub to binary form as 1 0 and 0 1. Now you understand what is assembly level language and assembleries. Writing code with assembly level instructions is easy when compared to binary level. But for large programs with thousands of lines, it's very difficult to develop in assembly level language. So people again developed high level languages like C with common English tokens. This high level language is very easy to understand as well as to develop. One high level instruction may represent up to few hundreds lines of assembly level instructions and thousands of binary level symbols. Let's discuss high level languages in upcoming videos. Stop this evaluation process here and go back to our example. In this video, till now we discussed our assumed example hardware. But in real time, this type of fixed hardware is available in many forms like microprocessors, microcontrollers, FPGA boards, system on chips, GPUs, IP cores, and etc. For microprocessor, the hardware design is similar to our example, but our example is very simple one. Real-time microprocessor can perform many arithmetic and logical operations with complete arithmetic and logical unit. They support different types of memories with complex controlling units. Don't worry about the complexity here. For each processor, we have dedicated instruction set with all possible operations. In our previous example, we have considered only two operations. So we have add and sub symbols in the instruction set. One should understand this instruction set and memory maps before start of programming in assembly level program. As we have already discussed, assembly level programming is very difficult, so processor manufacturers provide assemblers and compilers to convert a high level program to low level bitstream that will execute on hardware to perform defined tasks in high level program. Now completely reform the example in software terminology. We have 3 input variables and 2 output variables or results, and we have to perform addition or subtraction on first 2 variables depending on third variable. The generic code will be as shown below. If input 3 is addition, then output is addition of first 2 inputs. Else if input 3 is subtraction, then output is subtraction of first 2 inputs. Else it is undefined operation. Okay, in our next videos, let's discuss more on high-level programming languages. And this is our first video, friends. If you have any queries, please reach us by posting your questions. If you have any technical challenges or issues in your projects, please post a query to us. Links are given in the description. And thank you for watching our channel. Please like, share and subscribe us. Follow us on Facebook and Instagram. Bye-bye.